50 years, I never lived further away from Rice than 5 blocks. I remember telling my wife that every time we were looking to either build or buy something or move, it was like, I want to be right next to Rice. And she'd say, why? And I'd say, so I can walk. And she said, but you've never walked. And I still, to this date, I've never walked to Rice. However, most of the people at Rice know me as a sports car guy. And I really enjoy driving. And one of the things that's really interesting is living this close to the campus, I seldom get to listen to a single piece of music.
Will famously is one of our faculty who wears a bow tie, which is sort of a trademark for architects of a certain generation. But there's something very interesting about Will. So Will has the bow tie, wears it into the school. As he's going into the studio, he unties it. Slowly during the day, it ends up in his pocket. It's choreographed, he does it almost every day, but at the same time, I don't think that it's artificial, which is a very interesting way of seeing how someone portrays a certain image of the professor. So there's a certain distance, and at the same time, there's an absolute familiarity.
Well, I was fortunate in my education. I went to several universities, and at each one of these, I was able to make direct connections with the leading design critics and architects at those universities, and they became my mentors, and I really wanted to be like them, and that led me to think I wanted to teach and practice. Just by accident, I hadn't been to Houston in a long time, a number of years, maybe 10 years, and I drove from Berkeley to Port Arthur, where my mother and dad lived, to just see them over the holidays I guess it was in 1963. And I was blown away by Houston because it had 3 new high-rise buildings. It had the Astrodome, it had NASA, and it was just popping. And so I drove back to California and moved and came here. The first thing I did was go talk to Rice University about teaching. They didn't have an opening, but if they got one, they'd call me. So I worked for a firm a year, and in fact, I just quit that Friday because I was disappointed in the job and was unemployed and had gone back to Port Arthur just to sort of sulk and try to figure out what I was going to do next. And I think it was on a Sunday morning, I got a call from Bill Caudill. And so he asked me, he said, can you start Monday in the 5th year design studio? And I said, yeah. I didn't tell him I didn't have anything else to do. It was just a handshake, $8,000 and 1-year appointment. And that was the beginning of 50 years right there. And I had no idea at the time where it was going or how it would turn out, but it's been a heck of a ride.
So I think there are several things that Will brings to the party. One is just digesting the idea that someone has been involved with Rice, teaching at Rice for 50 years. Half of Rice's existence, more than the time I've been alive on this planet. It's unfathomable to me, and I think it's completely unfathomable to the students. And yet, I love talking to Will about it because he just says, he'll pause and he'll say, yeah, I don't understand how that happened, and then he'll just move on. And I think that that's characteristic of his permanent mindset, which is more in the present and the future. He's more like a kid sometimes than a faculty member who's been here for 50 years.
I think it's so appropriate that recently he's taught studios that are comprehensive studios, because I think that's the way he's always thought. I think that he considers a project not only its design, but its detailing, its economics, its client needs. It's all one thing for Will, and I think that's what makes him a very unique architect.
That's the way you do architecture. At least that's the way I believe it should be done. So that's sort of like, I learned how to do it in the 50s and 60s, and I'm still doing it, in this case, 60 years later. I'm having a good time. I really like it. I like teaching, and I like being in academia, and I like dealing with the people at Rice, all the way from the president, the board, down to the janitors and the students. They're all just good people, and it's a lot of fun. And I can't think of anything I'd rather do.